What happens when a princess refuses to play by royal rules? When duty clashes with desire and tradition meets rebellion? The story of Princess Stéphanie of Monaco reads like a modern fairy tale turned upside down, one where the princess chooses passion over protocol, authenticity over appearances, and personal fulfillment over public expectations. Born into one of Europe's most glamorous royal families, Stéphanie Marie Elisabeth Grimaldi seemed destined for a life of privilege wrapped in velvet gloves and diamond tiaras. Yet from her earliest years, this youngest child of Prince Rainier III and the incomparable Grace Kelly would prove that she was cut from entirely different cloth. But what drives a princess to abandon the gilded cage of royalty for the uncertain freedom of self-expression? Princess Stéphanie entered the world on February 1, 1965, as the third and youngest child of Monaco's ruling couple. While her siblings, Caroline and Albert, seemed to naturally embrace their royal roles, Stéphanie displayed an independent streak that would define her entire life. Growing up in the shadow of her mother's Hollywood legacy and her father's princely duties, she witnessed firsthand the weight of royal expectations. But did this make her more determined to forge her own path? The pivotal moment of Stéphanie's young life came on September 14, 1982, when she was just 17 years old. She was in the car with her mother, Princess Grace, when the tragic accident occurred that would claim Grace Kelly's life and forever alter the trajectory of Stéphanie's story. What many fail to fully grasp is the profound psychological impact this experience had on a teenager who was not only losing her mother, but doing so in the most traumatic way possible. Stéphanie was initially hospitalized with injuries from the crash, and while her physical wounds healed, the emotional scars ran much deeper. She had been driving with her mother on the winding roads above Monaco when Grace suffered what was later determined to be a stroke, causing her to lose control of the vehicle. The car plunged down a 120-foot embankment, and Stéphanie found herself not only witnessing her mother's final moments, but also bearing the crushing weight of survivors' guilt. In the aftermath, whispers and speculation swirled around the accident. Some tabloids cruelly suggested that Stéphanie had been driving, adding a layer of public blame to her private grief. This false narrative, though later debunked, left deep wounds on a young woman already struggling to process an unimaginable loss. How does someone as young as 17 years old deal with losing the person who represented both unconditional love and the ideal image of a modern-day princess? The timing of Grace's death was particularly devastating for Stéphanie's development. At 17, she was at a crucial stage of identity formation, caught between adolescence and adulthood, between wanting independence and needing maternal guidance. Grace Kelly had been more than just a mother to Stéphanie. She had been a role model who had successfully navigated the transition from Hollywood stardom to royal duties, someone who could have helped Stéphanie understand how to balance personal desires with public expectations. Psychologists often note that traumatic loss during adolescence can lead to what appears to be reckless behavior, but is actually a desperate search for control and meaning. Could Stéphanie's subsequent life choices be understood not as rebellion, but as a young woman's attempt to reclaim agency after experiencing profound helplessness? Would this tragedy become the catalyst for her lifelong determination to live authentically, knowing firsthand how quickly life can be taken away? Where other princesses might have retreated into traditional royal duties, Stéphanie charged headfirst into uncharted territory. In the 1980s, she shocked the royal establishment by pursuing a career in fashion modeling, appearing on magazine covers, and walking runways with a freedom that most royals could only dream of. But was this simply youthful rebellion, or was Stéphanie genuinely trying to establish her own identity, separate from her royal heritage? Her fashion career was just the beginning. Stéphanie then ventured into music, releasing pop albums that, while not critically acclaimed, demonstrated her willingness to risk public ridicule in pursuit of her artistic vision. Songs like Oregon, Hurricane, seemed to mirror her own turbulent relationship with public expectations. We can see in her musical choices a deliberate attempt to communicate her inner struggles with the world. The fashion world beckoned next, and Stéphanie answered by launching her own swimwear line, Pool Position. Here was a princess designing bikinis, a scenario that would have been unthinkable in previous generations of European royalty. Yet Stéphanie approached business with the same fearless attitude she brought to everything else. Perhaps nowhere has Stéphanie's unconventional approach to life been more evident than in her romantic relationships. Her love life has provided tabloid fodder for decades, but beneath the sensational headlines lies a woman determined to follow her heart rather than royal marriage protocols. Her relationships with bodyguard Daniel Ducrouet, elephant trainer Franco Ni, and Portuguese acrobat Adans Lopes Perez reveal a clear pattern. Stéphanie was consistently drawn to authenticity over social status. Her marriage to Ducrouet in 1995 resulted in 2 children, Louis and Pauline, but ended in divorce amid scandal. Rather than retreat from public view, Stéphanie continued to live openly, raising questions about whether royal privacy is possible or even desirable in the modern age. When she later had a 3rd child, Camille, with Jean-Raymond Gottlieb, she chose not to marry, further challenging traditional royal expectations about family structure. How do we reconcile Stéphanie's choices with our expectations of royal behavior? Is she simply selfish and irresponsible, or is she pioneering a new model of authentic royal living? While the media focused on Stéphanie's romantic escapades and career ventures, a different story was quietly unfolding. Beginning in the 1990s, she became deeply involved in AIDS awareness and prevention work, a cause that was still highly stigmatized at the time. Her work with Fight AIDS Monaco and her willingness to be photographed with AIDS patients showed a compassionate side that often got overshadowed by tabloid coverage. This humanitarian work raises fascinating questions about the nature of royal duty. While Stéphanie rejected many traditional royal obligations, she embraced others with passion and commitment. Authentic service requires a personal connection to the cause, and genuine humanitarian work emerges only when it comes from the heart rather than obligation. Her involvement with circus performers and her advocacy for their rights also demonstrates her consistent attraction to marginalized communities. There's something poetic about a princess who feels most at home with society's outsiders. This reveals much about Stéphanie's character and underscores the isolating nature of royal life itself. Today, Princess Stéphanie continues to live on her own terms. Her children have grown up with a mother who prioritized authenticity over appearances, personal happiness over public approval. Louis and Pauline have both pursued their own unconventional paths, suggesting that Stéphanie's influence extends beyond her own generation. The question remains, has Princess Stéphanie been a destructive force in the House of Grimaldi, or has she been a necessary evolution? In an age where younger generations increasingly value authenticity over authority and personal fulfillment over traditional success markers, perhaps Stéphanie was simply ahead of her time. Consider the contrast between Stéphanie's approach and that of other European royals who have maintained more traditional paths. While they may have avoided scandal, have they achieved the same level of genuine self-expression? And in our social media age, where authenticity is increasingly valued over perfection, does Stéphanie's willingness to show her flaws and failures make her more relatable than her more polished royal counterparts? As Princess Stéphanie enters her 60s, her life story offers valuable insights into the evolution of modern monarchy. She has demonstrated that royal blood doesn't have to mean royal behavior, that princesses can be businesswomen, that tradition can coexist with innovation, and that public service can take many forms. The rebel Princess of Monaco has spent her life answering the question she posed through her actions. What if a royal chooses to be real rather than perfect? Her answer, lived out through decades of unconventional choices, suggests that authenticity, even when messy and controversial, might be more valuable than flawless protocol. In the end, Princess Stéphanie of Monaco may be remembered not for the scandals or the headlines, but for her courage to live as herself in a world that demanded she be someone else. And perhaps that, more than any traditional royal duty, is the most inspiring legacy of all.